So let me start with all the things you need to start your painting. First and foremost, the colors. I am using the Winsor & Newton artist grade oil paints. Most of them are artist grade. You can very well use some of the Winton student colors as well. These are really good, but pigment wise not as rich as the artist grades. But then you can do away with those paints as well if you are just starting. And then the medium which you need to mix these paints, I use, if you have seen my earlier videos, I use liquid original and then liquid fine detail. I use these mediums because this helps the paint dry faster. As a palette, I use this board where on top of it I have pasted matte vinyl sheet. Earlier I have used glass palette as well, but then it was too shiny for me to show on camera. So this time around I have pasted matte vinyl sheet so that it's easier for me to show how I mix the paint. And then you definitely need brushes. I'm using some of these. These are all bought from local art shop, very cheap brushes. None of them are costlier ones. I use mostly the round brushes because most of my work involve fine detail. There are pointed brushes as well. These are liner brushes for very fine details and lines. So finally we have the canvas. I am using MDF panel. I have coated a couple of layers of artist gesso on top of it. I have mixed a little bit of burnt umber acrylic paint along with the gesso so that it's not completely white, and when I apply some white on top of it, it stands out. So it makes it a little bit easier for you to distinguish between different colors. I have made a rough sketch of what I'm trying to paint with a pencil. Let me show you what kind of pencil I'm using. Lead pencil, I'm using 0.7 lead in this. This is all pre-hand drawn. You don't have to be very specific in what you're drawing here. So this is all we need. I have not shown all the colors right now because I don't know which other colors I might pick up as we go. While we are painting, I'll show you the rest of them and things will be much clearer. Alright then, let's get started. Let's start mixing the colors of sky. As you see on the completed painting there, the sky is very clear and on a sunny day. So I'm taking the medium liquid original so that my brush is wet with that, and I start mixing white because the color is predominantly white. I'm mixing more opaque white, that is titanium white, and then I keep on adding the cerulean blue. You see the color is already similar to what I'm trying to mix for the sky. I'm using a size 2 round brush, by the way. I will add a little bit of yellow to it to give it a little bit of green tinge. So I'm going to add some more white. Now I think it looks very close to what I want. I think we are good. Let's start painting the sky now. Again, I'm using the same brush. As you know, we always start with the farthest point. If you have seen my earlier paintings, I always start with very extreme far point and then build up towards the nearest. Don't worry if your paint goes over the lines you have drawn. They're just there for the reference. See, I made a mistake here. It is fine. Like I said, you don't have to worry about going over the line. Now let's mix the color for the trees in the distance. We do not have to make anything clear there. So what I've done is, to the same mixture I've added a little bit of yellow. This is lemon yellow. So this turns the blue color into light shade of green, and on top of that I've added a little bit of ivory black. So the color looks like this. Let me make it a bit darker and then a little bit of ivory black. We keep on mixing until you are satisfied with the color. I think this looks better. Though the trees in the distance are green because of the atmosphere, the distance trees will be bit more bluer in shade. So you'll not be able to distinguish that bright green color from the trees. That's how you give the atmospheric feel to your painting. So I'm roughly putting in these colors. We'll fine tune them afterwards. Because the color of sky is still wet, and this will help you blend them in, because the distance, the trees at a very long distance will not be very clear, and they would appear to be merged with the color of sky. With the same brush, I'm just merging those colors to give it an illusion of distant trees. I think this should suffice. Now you'll see that all the trees which are nearer to us, for instance, these the places here, will we will add more greens to it as compared to blue. We are introducing a new color to the mix now. I have added burnt umber for the trees which are a little bit nearer to us. We'll add this color to the shadows of these trees. We'll do the shadows part first and then the highlight for these trees. Okay, for the highlights, to the same mixture, we will add yellow ochre so the colors pop up. Remember, this is only the highlight, so you should never overdo the highlights because it's a very bright day. The top part of the trees will reflect sunlight, so we will have these highlights. What I'm going to do is on top part of the distant trees, I will slightly dab in the same color because they also reflect sunlight and they would be greener compared to the rest of the part. Because the paint is still wet, that helps me to put in those colors there. Remember not to overdo this, otherwise you'll lose the depth. Let us start mixing colors for the ground here, the grassland. I'll show you how I do that. Because the grass is also the highlight part, as most of the sunlight would be reflecting there. The same mixture, I will add a bit of titanium white. I'm going to use the same color on the grassland and then give bit of texture later on wherever there are shadows. To the same mixture, I have added burnt umber and yellow ochre, and we will create this horizontal lines. These needs to be very subtle, should not stand out. So the next step would be to paint these walls. If you see, there are two areas where you have to mix different colors. One is where direct sunlight from the window panes would hit the walls here, and that light would be refracted onto the wall. So this part of the wall would be considerably cooler than the part which is near to the window, because sunlight is refracting from this surface and from the surface of this wooden stool. So you'll have to mix in two colors, like I mentioned, one which is a bit cooler and then which is a bit warmer. In this section, I will show you how that color is mixed. So let's get started. So other than the gray, which is a mixture of black and white, I have taken on my palette alizarin crimson and burnt sienna. Alizarin crimson for the cooler part of the wall where there is shadow, and then burnt sienna for warmer part. Let me mix in the cooler part first. I'll take some titanium white, add some liquid original to it, then I'll add black. Now I'm mixing this color for the darkest part of the wall, so we can go ahead and make it much darker. It's always better to keep on adding the tone instead of overdoing it in the first place. This is still not accurate, but let me add some alizarin crimson. As far as the amount of paint goes, this is not enough for the entire wall. I have mixed here just to demonstrate how I mix the color and how I prepare the tone. So I'm using size 2 flat brush and I'm going to apply the color directly onto the wall. I'm going to cover all the places where there is shadow uh, in the wall, because there are places where you'll have to take care of the colors not flowing onto the flowers. The basic drawing which I've made of flowers, I'm using a smaller brush. This is size 2 round brush, and with this brush I will fill in all these gaps. Now to make the color warm, I'm going to add burnt sienna to the same mixture. This definitely warms up the color, but then the darkness is still there. To get rid of that, we add titanium white to the mixture. Now you see this color as compared to the previous one is definitely a bit warmer and lighter as well. I'm going to use the same size 2 round brush and start adding this the warm color onto the wall where you would see that the sunlight reflects from the flowers and the walls. I'm going to transition between these two colors very softly so that the transition is really seamless. You could do that with a larger soft brush, but this brush also will do. I am intentionally going over the drawing of these flowers because it's easy for us to add the colors of the flowers on top of the background, but mixing the same background again would be difficult. So it's okay to go over the drawing you have made. Now to make this transition bit softer, I could have done that with a small brush, but then it will not be as smooth. So I'm using a size 2 flat brush, and this way if you just do these horizontal movements between the two colors, you'll get a better transition and a softer seamless mix. In between I'm cleaning my brush. Now I'm thinking I should be using a round brush instead of the flat one. So I'll use this size 10 round brush. I think this will be much better. Yeah. You see the transition is really soft now. I'm cleaning the brush in between, and that's how you merge two colors. Now because the sunlight is directly hitting the walls and then some part of that would be reflecting on the wall, I'm adding this warm color here. I have mixed burnt sienna to the same mixture. Like in the previous step, I'm going to use the same larger round brush to smooth it out. Okay. Now I'm going to use same large round brush and smooth out the transition so it looks more natural. I'm using the same mixture which I have added here for this part of the wall, because this part would be much brighter than this because there will be shadow and there will be light refracting in fact on this part of the wall. There are some parts of this wall where there is direct sunlight um, hitting from the window pane, so you will have these shapes appearing on the wall. We'll have to make these patches brighter because of direct sunlight. We'll do that later. For now, we are just going to leave out those spaces. I'm sorry if my hand is blocking the view. Sometimes I lose track of how the camera is seeing and how I hold my brush. When we come to the shadow part of the same wall, the color gets bit darker, and hence I have added ivory black to the same mix. And to make this transition between the joint between these two walls bit more seamless and natural, I'll run the brush very softly on top of it, so it smoothens out and not very sharp. I'll make some marks on this part of the wall so it looks a bit natural. It's very difficult for me to hold the brush in a slanting position, but then for the camera I have to do it.
You can watch the full time-lapse video of this painting. I'll leave a link on top right corner of this video.
So I'm going to add cadmium yellow to the same mix or sides which are very close to the window pane because they'll be very bright. I'll add some titanium white. To the same mixture here, I have added burnt sienna and alizarin crimson some more to give this very dark look. We need to add some highlight here. I'll keep that gap for now. And then to the same mixture, I'll add some titanium white to make it a bit lighter. I think I like the style of not using a ruler, so the lines are a bit crooked and I guess it looks natural. I don't know. What do you think about it? Please let me know in the comment section. To this mixture, I have added some more ivory black and titanium white to create this highlight here. Let me show you why I use the round brush to create the fine line which I used for the indent on the wall. So you can very well use the flat brush as well, but even in the round brush, so when you mix the color, see, when you mix the color and you just press your brush like this and then turn it around and press it again, so you find this flat edge. I'm not sure if you can see it. You can see this flat edge, right? And with the same brush, if you slightly push it onto the canvas and then drag it, you can still get fine line like a flat brush, but with a little bit of texture. If you see, this looks more natural and it shows a brush stroke. I hope that was clear. For the shadows here, from the window panes, I have added titanium white to the same mixture from here. So this is basically ivory black, titanium white and burnt sienna and alizarin crimson as well, tiny bit. I have added some titanium white to the same mix which I have used in the shadow to paint this side of the wall. Now because there is this piece of wood in the window, this part of the wall will be a little bit darker because of its shadow. So I've added some ivory black to the same mix. We'll put that color here and make it really soft. Because the paint underneath is still wet, we can easily blend it in. So I'm painting this window pane now and I've used almost same mixture.
Someone like you, someone like you. I want you to know me, 'cause I know then you'll see we could be true, we can be true. I want you to see what I see in us, Something so real, something so real. I want you to see
For
that
the
this
wooden
is
bars in the window pane, I'm going to take titanium white and we will mix a gray to add some liquid original as a medium. To this gray, I will add burnt umber. I have to make it a bit darker and then add some more burnt umber. Let me add some alizarin crimson also. Yeah, I think this looks about right. And wherever needed, we will either lighten the color with titanium white or darken it with ivory black and then mix burnt umber to the same mixture. Okay, let's apply it on this canvas now. I'm using the size 2 round brush and then I'm going to just make vertical strokes. I'm not using any ruler or any stick. You can either do it freehand or rest your finger here somewhere where the paint is dry or on the surface where we have not painted yet. So I'm just resting my finger here and this will help me make fine lines. So this way, I'm not sure if this is visible. I'll try to extend my brush and then show you. This way I'll get more control over the strokes. Again, I'm resting my finger here because I have not painted here and making fine vertical strokes. Let us try one more option now. I will use this size 40 liner brush. This is basically a detailing brush. You'll see that this will create really fine strokes.
I know that you miss me, but you are so down. You know that I'm here, I'm here. Come when you want. You know I'll always pray for your little boy. I know, yeah. I know that you miss me. I know that
With the
you
mix of
miss me.
burnt sienna, ivory black, and titanium white, I'm going to paint these little patches of dirt at the corner of the glass pane. This would give a little bit of realistic look to the glasses. I'm going to add it to all the corners and soften the edges. These little imperfections, actually increases the realistic look of the painting. Though it is not necessary, but it gives you that look we are after. And you will see that when the sunlight directly hits a window pane, there are corners of the glass which specifically lights up as it receives light here. I have mixed titanium white and a bit of lemon yellow to the mix. Light brush strokes along the corner. I will soften it up later on. Now we are going to paint this bottom part of the stool. This part is mostly dark and except for the parts where the light is reflecting on. Um, from the outset, when you look at the image, right, this will look pitch black, but then when you dive in and see exactly what that darkest color is, it is not exactly the darkest black. So with the ivory black, we will have to mix in alizarin crimson, or maybe some of the parts we might have to add burnt sienna as well. So I'll show you how that color is mixed. Let us dive into that. First of all, I'm going to take this medium, which is liquid fine detail. I could have used liquid original as well. And right away, I'm going to add the ivory black. This color is still thin and transparent because of the medium I have used. And then to this mix, I'm going to add alizarin crimson. So you'll see that this is not exactly pitch black, but then there is slight tinge to it because of the alizarin crimson we have added, and this is going to give a better look instead of adding directly the ivory black onto the canvas. Okay, so now that we have this mix, in some part I might add burnt sienna as well to the same mix. So let us go to the canvas now. I am using a size 2 round brush and directly applying the paint we mixed just now. If you can see, the color is still transparent, and we don't want that. I'm going to add some ivory black to the mix because ivory black is a very opaque color. I'm going to add that and it looks better now. To the same mixture, I have added a bit of titanium white to create these slight highlights. These highlights here is because of the light reflected from the wall. So it will not be very light in color, but then light enough to show. Now for the extreme highlights, I have mixed titanium white along with lemon yellow and a little bit of yellow ochre. So I'm going to put that here on the extreme corners, and then we will gradually blend it with the color we have already applied because the paint is already wet, so it will help in achieving that result.
The stars align. We lose ourselves in the rhythm divine. Underneath the sky, painted with dreams, we're chasing the echoes of silent screams. Caught in the spell of the cosmic night, where fantasies bloom in the pale moonlight. We'll let go of all that we know and dance in the stardust, gentle flow. Dancing in the stardust, we'll witness and feel the wonders. Just you and me, lost in the moment. Our spirits ignite.
So I'm applying a base coat titanium white mixed with burnt umber, cadmium yellow, and a very tiny bit of alizarin crimson. There are a lot of variations on the stool here, but then I'm applying a base coat, and then on top of it we'll apply whether the shadows or the highlights. These areas here are going to be very light, so I'll have to apply a lot of titanium white here later on. So for now I'll just fill it up with this base coat, so it's easy for us to add different shades later on. There is a shadow from the window pane as well. So wherever there is a highlight, I'm going to apply this base coat. You see here this area is painted over by the background color. So in order to get the perfect line, we can use a pencil to sketch out. I'm using a mechanical pencil. According to this line, we will take an oxymate, and this will help us to apply the colors. You could do it freehand with the brush, but then I like to do it this way. For the shadows, I added a bit of ivory black and burnt umber. I'm going to apply it here as well. There's a shadow here. I'm still using size 2 round brush. So the base coat is still wet, and this will help us soften the edges very easily. See, this is a wooden table, so you can feel free to create as much texture as you like. It would still look natural. Alright, I'm going to use the same shadow color over here. I think I would need to darken it a bit because this would carry the shadow from the walls. Because the sunlight is very harsh, let us keep lines between the shadow and highlight very sharp. Let us not soften it, so I will do the same thing here. For the shadow below the walls, I have mixed alizarin crimson along with burnt umber and ivory black. This part of the shadow is going to be very dark. You will observe that whenever there is a sharp shadow created by strong light, like in our case the sunlight, the shadow will have a lot of contrast. So whatever color you mix in will be very vibrant. Okay, now it's time to add the highlights. I have taken titanium white and added a lot of liquid fine detail to make it a little bit transparent. I could use the zinc white as well, but I think this will work just fine. The aim is to add the highlight, but still some part of the base coat which we have added should be visible. That's the reason we have made it a little bit transparent. I forgot to mention that along with titanium white, I have added a little bit of cadmium yellow. The base coat which we have applied, I actually had applied it yesterday. So it is not completely wet. It is still a bit sticky. So you can very well apply the lighter coat on top of it. This is not the ideal scenario. The ideal way to do oil painting is applying thick over thin, that is the thick paint should be applied on top and the thin layer or the transparent layer should be below in the layers. But then if you have to create that transparent look with the base coat showing, you have to use this technique. I am being very careful near the edges. We will not make these strokes very smooth because we have to create that wood wood like texture. So it's fine if brush strokes are visible. This particular corner will receive a lot of sunlight, so I'm just dabbing brush on the corner, just making sure that it is very uneven. So I'll wipe my brush and blend it a little bit. I'm creating the wooden texture now, fine lines, and the color I've mixed is alizarin crimson, burnt sienna, and ivory black, and along with a little bit of zinc white. We'll try to keep it as subtle as possible. I'm going with the same color this side as well. And with the same light mix to add some of it here because the color we mixed last time was just a base coat. So now let's move on to painting the walls. We divide the object into multiple sections. One is where there is a shadow on this side of the walls. Then there is extreme highlight from the sunlight on the left part, and then some reflected light from the wall on to the right side of the object. And then there is some because this is a shiny object, there is some reflection of light from the wooden stool here. So all this part taken into consideration, I'll start with the shadow and I'll show you how to mix the colors. It's pretty easy. I have taken liquid fine detail as a medium and only a tiny bit, and then to this mix I'm going to add alizarin crimson, a little bit of burnt umber, and then I'll add ivory black. For now this is too dark, and let me take zinc white instead of the titanium white, and I think it should be good. Again I'm using a size 2 round brush and putting the colors we just mixed. Now I added a bit of titanium white to the same mix, only a little bit. The color will get lighter as we go to either sides. So let us paint this part. This is a white vase, so whatever color we put here will all be reflecting from somewhere else. So this color is the reflected light from the stool. We'll add the highlights later. To the same mix I added a bit of ivory black and alizarin crimson to give it this grayish color. At this point we are only adding values, we are not taking care of the details at all, and with the same brush we keep blending. Now we are introducing French ultramarine. To the same mix, I have added a bit of French ultramarine along with titanium white. So this part will receive a bit of blue tinge. This part is more yellow than blue because of the light reflecting from the wall. I have taken yellow ochre along with ivory black and titanium white. Let's add the extreme highlight to this side now. I'm taking a titanium white right out of the tube. I'm going to add tiny bit of yellow ochre to this white to make it a little bit warm. Now let's start mixing the color for the bunch of daisies, and we'll start with the darkest greens here. I have made this a really dark and transparent color. I have added sap green, French ultramarine and ivory black to make it really dark. I'm going to paint this entire thing. Later on we can add the mid-tone and highlights, because this entire area will be covered with green and there will be no background visible.
Where the stars align, we lose ourselves in the rhythm divine. Underneath the sky, painted with dreams, we're chasing the echoes of silent screams. Caught in the spell of the cosmic night, where fantasies bloom in the pale moonlight. We'll let go of all that we know and dance in the stardust.
Now I'm going to choose a base color for all the flowers, neither the highlight nor the shadow, just a base color which is I'm going to be somewhat kind of a gray, a lighter gray along with a little bit of warmth in it, and I'm going to add that color to all the flowers irrespective of where they are in the picture, and later on based on the lighting condition we will add the highlight and shadows to the same. So I'm going to show you how I mix that color. I have taken liquid fine detail, and to this I'm going to add titanium white and a little bit of ivory black. To make it a little bit warm, I will add burnt sienna. Again, I'm using a size 2 round brush. We'll paint all the petals. The reason I'm adding this base before I have completed all the green part is that once you add this, you'll get an idea of all the places where you need to add the greens. This would be a better approach. Also, this will give us a better base when we add the highlights.
Just you and me, lost in the moment. Our spirits ignite as we twirl in the magic of the cosmic light. Among constellations, we find a way through the celestial symphony we'll sway. With every step, we leave our cares behind. In this celestial ballroom, rustic fine, caught in the spell of cosmic night.
I've taken a mid-tone titanium white along with little bit of yellow ochre and burnt sienna. So this should be a kind of mid-tone.
Caught in the spell of cosmic night, with sunsets bloom and pale moonlight. We're waiting to feel wonders, just you and me on the moment. Our spirits ignite as we twirl in the magic of cosmic light. Wishing galaxies will find our home. In this cosmic gate, as we twirl in the
Let me show you
magic of the cosmos.
how I do this flower. On top of the base coat which we added earlier to all the flowers, I added a bit of warm color only on this top surface because the light would be reflecting on the back of this flower or on the sides. So this part, this particular area would be a bit warm. So I have added titanium white along with burnt umber and a little bit of ivory black to make this warm color. While the coat is still wet, I'm going to take the highlight color, again the titanium white along with a bit of burnt sienna, and I'm going to paint the lines where the light is reflecting, basically the highlights, just the corners. Again, it's a size 2 round brush, sorry, and we are only going to mark the highlights now. And now let's add the extreme highlights. We have to make sure we don't overdo this. The paint I've taken directly from the tube and it is very thick and it will help you create this texture with your brush stroke. People do it with the knife, but I'm yet to learn that.
The warmth of your smile, I remember old photos locked away in time. Every glance was like a whispered promise. Now they haunt me, lost in my mind. One more time, I wish I could hold you.
Please share your valuable feedback in the comment box below. That will definitely help me make better videos in future.
Before we say goodbye, let me keep this moment forever in my mind. Every street we walk feels colder. Every song reminds me of your face. And even in a crowded room, I feel lonely. I'm just a figure in your forgotten space. One more time, I wish I could hold you. Feel your heartbeat, that's my turn. One more time, before we say goodbye, let me keep this moment forever in my mind. Every street we walk feels colder. Every song reminds me of your face. And even in a crowded room, I feel lonely. I'm just a figure in your forgotten space. One more time, I wish I could hold you. Feel your heartbeat against my chest. One more time, before we say goodbye, let me keep this.
Thank you so much for watching the video till the end. I'll see you in the next one.
Please subscribe and hit the like button to support the channel. Take care.